We've had some pretty significant expenses in terms of our COVID response, as well as our move to the new station. So additional PPE, we've had to make modifications to the ambulances to try and keep everyone safer. And also that CPR program that I mentioned earlier being shut down had an impact. Thankfully, we were able to keep our EMT and AEMT programs running, which has been helpful from a financial perspective and also allowed us to keep recruiting volunteers throughout this. So that's one good thing. So we've taken a number of steps to minimize the financial impact, basically have a spending freeze in place. We've reduced, one of the nice things about having additional volunteers hours is that I've been able to cut, in some cases, staff hours without compromising coverage. So that's been a money saver for us. We've applied for a ton of federal assistance, which has been fairly time consuming, but has really offset some of these losses. Obviously not planning on moving forward with any pay increases for 2021, applying for private grants, working with some new partnerships. So for example, with our call volume down, one of the things that we found is that we're not using, we're just not as busy. We're not using our third ambulance as much. And so using that third ambulance, which was always kind of extra to provide coverage for the UNH hockey games. And so then they pay us for that. So that's helped to offset some of the costs. And then reviewing our employee benefits programs. Even with all of this, we're estimating a loss of about $88,000 for this year. So to get into the appropriation request, as folks may recall, and this hasn't changed in past years, we base it on these three fixed costs: the dispatch costs, the station lease, and then basically what we pay our overnight paramedics. I will say all of them increased this year. The dispatch cost was actually set to increase significantly more, and we kind of pled the case to UNH both on our own behalf, but also on the town's behalf, and let them know that you folks share in the cost of this, and they did bring that down somewhat, so that increase was actually going to be closer to 20% or 18%, as I recall. And we were able to get them to lower that a little bit. What we then do with those costs is we offset some of it ourselves, and then we ask the communities to take up the share. So what I've asked is, or what I've put on here at the bottom is the total community portion, not just for Lee, but for all the 4 communities served. And we are asking the communities collectively to kick in by about an extra $11,000 this year. Now, as I mentioned, the call volume gets split up based, or the appropriation amount gets split up based on call volume. And so that $11,000 increase impacts the various communities differently. And unfortunately, it is kind of a double whammy for Lee this year, in that Lee's total share of the calls went from 24% last year to 26%. And that's what's driving that number as compared to, for example, Madbury, that share of the calls actually went down. So if you look at kind of these 3 things, the increase in the costs that were given to us, essentially the shift in the call volume, and then asking the communities to pick up a bigger share of the overall appropriation because of the challenges we face this year. That's how the impacts of the various pieces break down. So I know this has been very rapid fire. Do people have other questions for us or for me? I can stop sharing the screen here.
How many volunteers do you have from the town of Lee, Chris?
Town of Lee, I want to say we have about 7 or 8. So we have about 60 to 70 volunteers that are active at any given time. Frankly, about 1/3 to 40% are UNH students. There's about 20 to 30% that are former, or recent grads from UNH, and then the remainder from the community, from various communities. And I think Lee is at 6 or 7 volunteers.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Good. Everybody's good? All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you all for your time.
Scott, you all set?
Yep, they do an excellent job, so hopefully we can continue to support them in this difficult time. So
All right. Scott Nemeth. We're good to go.
Julie, can I share the screen as well?
Cord, can you quickly confirm you're present and alone? Maybe, maybe not.
I can't do anything very quickly right now, but I can confirm that I am present and alone.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody can see that?
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Stuff around. So this year, we were asked as department heads to keep the budget low, which we understand because of the times that we're going through. So the fiscal year 22 budget that we're presenting represents a 0.5% increase, which is $2,843. The increases that we see are in the personnel line for certification incentives, which we started a couple years ago. As the members gain new certifications, their pay goes up. Also to nighttime coverage, the uniforms and the dues and subscriptions. Decreases we have in equipment maintenance and repair, radio repair, lease agreements, and diesel fuel. A couple of those items we've just been looking at the previous years, and we brought them down. The diesel fuel, something that we've been really working on is we have a program through the WEX program to use cards at like the Irving or the Mobile that we can get cheaper fuel, and it's actually been cheaper than what we get at the state level at Durham. So we've just been watching those costs. But something that I like to go over every year, and the biggest issue that we face, and even though I didn't ask for it in the budget, I still want to put it in the forefront, is our staffing levels. And recently I was reading a report from the International Fire Chiefs Association that discussed recruiting and retention of the volunteers. I did put this in my budget explanation, but I'd like to read it real quick. So the old model of neighbors helping neighbors is all but gone most places, as many people don't have strong ties to or even know their neighbors anymore. We have always relied on multi-generational families passing down the tradition of joining the local fire department, but that is also becoming a thing of the past. As with many industries, as the baby boomers retire in the mass on the back end, they need to be replaced with the young people on the front end. In sheer numbers, there aren't enough millennials and iGens to replace the baby boomers. And worse for us as the fire service, these two younger generations aren't trending towards the fire service. With many young people needing 2 jobs to survive, plus other obligations, the free time is necessary to be part of the emergency sector is a luxury few can afford. In addition, the number of nonprofit organizations recruiting the same volunteers is at an all-time high. And frankly, our fire service as it exists with its current culture is not an attractive option for younger generations who value flexibility, creativity, and inclusivity. So I'm a visual person, and I did this today. It helped me out a lot. But when I joined the fire department in 1998 as an on-call member, there was 46 members. And each one of these faces, there's 46 faces from the on-call members. We were only doing 185 calls, sorry. At the top of the screen, you can see that there's groupings. And I did that because when I was reading the town reports to kind of go back and see some of the staffing levels that we've had in the past, at the time that I joined, there was 3 sets of families with 3 members from that one family. And there was also 2 people from the same family. There was 4 of those. So there's 7 individuals that were on the department that had a father or a brother that were also, or a sister that was also on the fire department. And we don't see that anymore in the fire department. I was hired in 2004 along with another full-timer at that time. And we were the first 2 to join in those roles. in 2004, but in 2010, just looking 10 years back, we had 28 on-call members. There was one full-time member and one part-time member. For some history, the town did approve 2 full-timers back in 2004. The person that we hired was retired and could only work so many hours, so technically they were part-time. And throughout the years, we've kind of gone up and down with our numbers. 2013, 26 members. We're still kind of where we were in 2010. 2015, we added 2 more part-timers. We added a full-timer and a part-timer, sorry. And this was due to me being hired as a full-time chief in 2014. So we hired a full-time firefighter to take my spot, and we still had the other part-timer. In 2015, we hired another part-timer. We went to the town and asked for a full-time position for this, and the town accepted it, and the selectmen asked me to fill in a part-time position instead of using the full-timer, so we kept the 2 part-timers. 2016, we were doing pretty good with 30 people in the department. And as we go through, we've added more full-time and part-time staff, but we've also lost a lot of on-call people. And it hasn't been 1-for-1 throughout the years. This is currently our staffing level now. We have 9 full-time and part-time members, and we have 9 on-call members. We do have a couple members. We have one that's out on military leave, and we have one that's out on family leave. But these are the numbers that we're looking at right now. We're using a lot of the full-timers and part-timers to cover shifts, to cover the nighttime coverage, and they're coming in on callbacks constantly to keep up with the demands. Where we're seeing a struggle, I don't know how many years ago now, probably 7 or 8, we started the nighttime shift coverage because we weren't having people come in for calls. And for the new people, the nighttime shift coverage is a stipend that people sign up for. We have 2 people covering shifts when the duty crew leaves at 6 p.m. until midnight, and then another crew that works midnight to 6 a.m. Those numbers when we first started the program were working out pretty well. And throughout the time, as we've lost more and more people, it's been a struggle to try and fill some of these shifts. As you can see in this slide, the top 3 people in last fiscal year were 2 part-timers and a full-timer. So they're working their normal schedule here during their week, and they're also doing the nighttime shifts. And even when they're not doing the nighttime shifts, they're still coming in for callbacks because we need the personnel. Recently, we just lost one of the part-timers. He got hired full-time in a city department. The other couple people we've had lost because one went to New York to start a new career. Another one went to North Carolina to start a career. Like I said, we have a military leave right now as well. So last year alone, we had 14 members participating in the nighttime shift coverage. They covered 864 shifts, and 7 of them are no longer with the department. Out of those 7 members that are no longer here, they covered 50% of the shifts. Here is a look at the incidents that we've had per year. I put down to 1998, just so you can see that we had 46 people handling 185 calls. And throughout the time, the calls have gone up. We've had some down years. And this year we had a down year because of COVID, we suspect. And we have 18 people on the fire department right now. So that's what I have. If you have any questions.
Scott, I assume that the biggest problem for recruiting people is going to be salary and benefits, or we cannot attract them, for instance, to move to Lee because we don't have, if you would, a low-cost housing, something that they could afford to move their family into right away. What does it take? What does it take if we wanted to put together a staffing plan that gets us to where we need to be over a period of time, i.e. 2 years, 3 years? We can't just go out and hire 5 people or 6 people or whatever. What do you think about that?
So our biggest concern right now that we've talked to the board and we brought it to the ABC the last couple of years is trying to hire a fourth full-time firefighter. So it'd be 5, including myself. By doing that, we can switch to 24-hour shifts. We'd have 24/7 coverage. That would, assist us with some of the nighttime coverage that we're having. We're having those issues. So there'd always be that full-time firefighter on shift. A lot of the people that we're seeing leave are leaving for full-time departments that work a 24-hour rotation. I can't really say, there's this one reason why they're leaving. I think each individual has their own reason that they want to. Recently, we just lost one of the part-timers. He's starting a new family. He has his own business on the side that he's running. So the 24-hour shifts is what he likes. We didn't have an opportunity here for him, so he left. Recently, I just found out that one of our full-timers that's been here, he's probably been on the department for 10 years now, and he's been either part-time or full-time the last 6 or 7, and he holds an officer, so we're losing that experience. He just got hired in the city department as well. So here he is, a full-time firefighter for our department, but he still wants the 24-hour shifts in a different call volume. I mean, some of these cities the calls that they have are completely different than what we have. So, we're trying to balance the call volume that we have and have the right people. We're relying so heavily right now on the part-timers and full-timers that, like I just showed in the nighttime coverage, the part-timers and the full-timers are the ones that are doing that nighttime coverage now. The on-call people are helping out as much as they can. But like I said at the beginning, they're being pulled in so many different directions with family and work. Going back to 1998, when we were looking at that roster, and I was looking through the group, about half of that department worked in town. And with the lower call volume, when we had a call in town, they could leave work and, handle the call for an hour or 2, and then go right back to work. And the community and the businesses allowed that, and that's not happening anymore.
And would you say from a salary and benefits picture, are we competitive?
Yeah, I would say for our size department, for the call volume and the population that we have, I would say we're pretty competitive. The thing that I keep hearing is the 24-hour shifts. That's what a lot of these people are looking for. The full-timer that's leaving now, even though he's full-time, because of our shift schedule, he has another job on the side that he's doing. And when he goes to the city department, he's going to have even more time so he can work the 2 jobs.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Chief, can you explain to, maybe some people don't know, the 24-hour shift? Explain to people what that means and how that works.
So a lot of the full-time departments work 24-hour shifts. It's on a rotation bi-weekly. So it depends on the shift schedule that we set up, but there'd be 4 different shifts because we have the 4 different people. They'd work 1 day on, so they'd come in, work 24 hours. They'd have 2 days off. They'd come in, work another 24-hour shift, and then they'd have 4 days off. And it would just work in a rotation that way. By doing that, we would continue with the part-timers working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we'd still have the same staffing during the day where we have a lot of our calls, but that full-timer would be at the station. They'd work with the nighttime coverage. Currently, we're starting to get into some issues where when we first started the program, we always wanted a duly certified person, a firefighter and an EMT, working together that could drive all the apparatus that we have here. And we're getting so low on staff that the other night we had 2 EMTs working. One of them has been around for a little while. The other one's brand new that just came out of class, and they can only drive 1 apparatus. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. And because of that, then, me and the assistant chief are talking, and some of the other part-timers and full-timers saying, hey, who's around tonight? So we might not be working that shift and taking that nighttime coverage, but we're still taking that responsibility. So somebody else is around to help them out. But I'm getting concerned because this has been an ongoing thing for us that we're asking a lot from our members. It's just not their shifts. I was thinking about the other night, like last night in the windstorm, I'm talking to some of my full-time firefighter friends on other departments. I'm sitting at home listening to a scanner. We got a couple of people out running around for calls all night. I think we had like 10 or 12 calls last night. And it was the part-timers, there's a couple on-call people, they're running around. And what hit me was the friends that I have that are full-time firefighters, they're not concerned about what's going on in their community that they work in because there's a full-time department. They have a shift on. If they need assistance, they'll do a callback and they'll tone out for more people. But with us, it's on us. So, you know, I mean, me and Tom talk about it all the time with the police department. This is something we're always concerned with. It's 24/7 for us. It's not something we just walk away from and be like, yeah, the town's fine. We're always concerned with that. So yes, we're getting the coverage. Yes, the shifts, most of the shifts are getting covered, but it's not up to our standard that we would like with the dual certified people. So, you know, we're doing the nighttime coverage. They're working their shifts. They're coming in for callback. It's nonstop for us. Or they could just go get hired in a full-time department, work their 24-hour shift, go home and work another job, and then come in a couple days later, work the 24 and go home, and, you know, not have that responsibility on them. Something that we've had to do as well with the part-timers and full-timers is they're taking on a lot of jobs within the fire department to help me out, and take some of that responsibility off me that they would never have to do in other departments. You know, I think it's valuable for them. The part-timers and full-timers are getting a lot of that experience that I got when I first started back in 2004. You know, we didn't have a full-time chief. The chief was volunteer. He was in and out of the office. So we were doing a lot of his work. So as a firefighter, I was getting that opportunity, and which has helped me now. And I think that's, you know, proven that the people that we are losing are good people. They're not going to Barrington or Epping. And I'm not knocking those fire departments, but our members are going to Concord, they're going to Rochester, they're going to Dover, they're going to Durham. I mean, they're big, good departments, and those are the people that we're losing.
So do I understand correctly, Scott? The immediate, if you would, the immediate relief for the pain would be a full-time firefighter?
From the exit interviews that I've been doing lately, most of the people that we've lost in the last 2 to 3 years, they've all said that if we had 24-hour shifts, they would stay. Now, I'm not saying they're going to stay here and work their 20-year career, but I think they're going to stay for 5 or 6 years. And the last couple of years, what we've seen is, you know, we have an on-call member, and it's been nice because we can do a lot of hiring from within. So the town's paying for the training, the gear, all this other stuff. You know, they're getting the experience as an on-call member, and then they can jump into a part-time role. But what we're seeing is that the lack of on-call members to fill in those roles, we're losing that. So an on-call member joins, a year later they have their fire one, their fire two, their EMT. They're still fresh and green with no experience, and they, you know, get put into the part-time role, and they're starting to gain some experience, and they're leaving in a year or 2 years. When I first started, you know, back in 2014, when I became chief, the part-timers and the full-timers that we had then stayed for 5 years. And we've just started to lose that, where people are just rotating through here so fast. And I think the 24-hour shifts is going to help us take a lot of that strain off the part-timers and full-timers that we currently have that are working, you know, coming in for callbacks. They're doing their shifts, and on top of that, they're doing the nighttime coverage. I think that will take some of that strain off of them, but also give them the opportunity to work the 24-hour shifts and then get another job elsewhere if they wanted to, because they have that time and the availability, or they can, you know, volunteer somewhere else or do whatever they want in their own time.
Got it. Thank you.
Do most of your members reside in Lee? I'm talking about like the full-time and part-time employees, the paid personnel.
No. I can look real quick.
I mean, I'm just thinking about, you know, a few weeks ago, Cord was saying that Lee has one of the highest, you know, tax rates of neighboring towns. And, you know, is that one of the reasons that we might be having trouble in this area, because people are just priced out of our neighborhood, and then, you know, in turn are not volunteering to support these, you know, organizations?
Out of the 18 people on our roster, 13 live out of town.
Okay.
And that's on call, part-time, full-time. That's the whole roster.
And you have 4 full-time right now, so you need 1 more full-time to move to this 24-hour shift thing.
Correct. I'm a full-timer. I work Monday through Friday, so I wouldn't be in that mix and working the 24-hour shifts. We have 3 currently, so the 4th would get us to that 24-hour rotation, and also give us the needed help for the nighttime coverage as well.
Chief, can I ask you a question about if you were to get this fourth person to do the shifts, is there any change in terms of your request for in your budget? Would any of the night shift incentive go away? Is anything else going away? And also, if you did that, is there any expenses that would increase because of that?
The only increase that I would look at to change would obviously just be the full-time firefighter line. I think we're setting ourselves up pretty well with the uniforms. We've been gradually moving up with that because of the staffing that we do have. The overtime, maybe a couple $1,000s, but obviously it's not going to pay for that position.
Anything in the night shift incentive, since you're going to have a full-time person there at night?
I'd like to really keep that as long as I can, because during the day, depending on the shift, we have 2 or 3 people with myself and Assistant Chief Laporto in the office. And that is our busier time, but at night, that would give us potentially 3 people. And responding to calls, the medicals, the COVID calls lately that we've had, and all these medicals. And I know it's only, as long as the COVID is, but to have all of us get the proper equipment on so we can enter the house. And this is basic calls, like you were saying earlier with Karen coughing. Anybody has a cough, we're suiting out. So it's taking longer, and we don't want all of us to go inside to the house because, like Chris said, there's policies and procedures that now we have. We don't want to have to take a truck out of commission and decon it when we get back. So, we're having that third person take our utility truck so that we can put all of the hazardous material, the hazardous waste from the call into the bed of the truck, so we're not throwing in the engine and taking that out of service. So,
well, the next time, Chief, you go to Karen's office, make sure you put all your PPE on, because she's been coughing. So just watch out. Can I don't know what the other selectmen think. Can we request the town administrator work with the police fire chief to find out how much this cost would be if we were to add this fourth person to do a 24-hour shift?
Yeah, we can definitely work together on that. Just adding another full-time firefighter could add anywhere from $40,000 to $45,000 in personnel benefit costs.
So if maybe you could work with the chief to find out what he's thinking in terms of salary and provide to the board and the ABC those other incremental costs, health insurance and all that other stuff, just so we know what that cost would be.
Yep.
Hopefully the other board members are okay with that. I'm
absolutely okay with it.
All right. I don't want to overstep my bounds.
No, it's always good to have the information.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Scott, I see Mr. Smith on the call. I think we have a new truck for your department this year. It's coming up that we postponed from last year. Is that going to have any impact on your budget?
No, you're right. Last year we were going to ask for another engine, and we postponed that to this year. So we are going to ask for that engine, but that's coming out of the CIP, so that shouldn't affect our budget at all.
No operating expenses, or that would, all the stuff to get it ready would be for CIP, but none of the operating expenses would be any different?
Correct. What we've tried to do with that cost for the CIP is to have the smaller equipment, that we might need new hose or anything like that, the radios, that comes out of the CIP. Potentially it would, decrease our vehicle equipment and maintenance and repairs.
Chief, is the plan in the CIP? I know the last time when you got a new apparatus, you traded in the old one. Are you doing that again for this transaction? Or are you trying to sell it outright? What are you doing? Or what's your plan?
We'll be trying to trade it in and go towards the price of the new truck. Yep.
So the amount in the CIP is the price of the new truck, not the amount that you're going to possibly get it for a trade-in. Is that correct?
Correct. That's for a new truck with no trade-in value.
All right. Do you have any idea how much the new truck would cost? Excuse me, the truck you're trading in? Any idea?
I'm not sure. When we traded in the tanker, which was, a couple of years ago, we got $50,000 for that.
Okay. And this is, what is this engine one? What is it?
Engine one. It's our international. That's from 1999.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Chief, are you replacing the ones that you just recently lost to other departments? You said a full-time and a part-time. Are you in the process of replacing them, and what costs are associated with that?
So the part-time firefighter left us a couple of months ago. We've discussed that, and having the part-timers, I've always tried to give them 24 hours a week. And what we found over time is that that's been a little bit difficult. If we have 3 firefighters working 24 hours, that's 6 days, but I need that 4th firefighter to work the 12 hours. So what we've looked at and the way we've been doing it is we have a program that we use, When to Work. Everybody bids on their schedule for the month. The people that have been here for a little bit longer, they get the days that they want. We have a lot of different moving parts on this. We have some part-timers that do work other departments. So they'll have to try and, work with both schedules to get something. But we do it a month out ahead of time, so we know a lot of this. And by doing that, we've had some issues trying to fill some shifts. I recently worked 2 Saturday nights, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then a couple of weeks ago, I did a 24-hour shift on a weekend because we didn't have coverage for it. So what we're looking at doing that I think is going to benefit us, we still have some part-timers that get the 24 hours a week. They've been with us for a couple of years, but we're trying to do more of like a per diem list where we're going to hire, 3 firefighters that would essentially take that part-timers role that you were discussing that we just lost. So we have those 3 opportunities to fill that time for the month. So it's kind of, I don't know, I guess I'm having a hard time explaining it, but instead of that one firefighter that we lost, the part-timer getting the 24 hours a week, now we have the opportunity to fill the same shifts with multiple people. There's some firefighters, like I said, because of their work schedule and their other job, they might not be able to work a weekend. So everybody's, tried to bid on the beginning of the week, but we have nobody on the weekend. So it'll give us more. We're not adding shifts. The shifts are already there. It's just we're adding more people into the mix to try and fulfill those shifts.
That position, money will be used.
Correct.
It's not going to be available to go to something else. And how about the full-time? Obviously you're replacing them, right?
Correct. Yep. The full-timer that I think he'll be moving on in January. So we're going to have to start a process and figure out how we're going to fill that position. So in the budget, it would be another full-time position for fiscal year 22. So we're still filling that position that we're losing.
Right. And are there costs associated with that? Getting the new full-time, not the one we're talking about you getting, but the one that you need to replace.
Correct. Replacing, we have a lot of gear that what we try to tend to do is the gear that we have, we try and outfit the new people, the part-timers, the full-timers, on-call member with what we already have in stock. We have a lot of good equipment that's still in date. We try and replace that. The T-shirts we've been trying to buy in bulk so we can replace hand them out to the on-call people or the new firefighters. So the more or less what we might see is some of the PPE, we might have to purchase new equipment if it doesn't fit them, a new jacket or something. And then the uniforms are about the same thing, but that's kind of in our budget because we've been, going through part-timers and replacing that stuff.
So that one part-timer that you now said you may replace with 3 other per diem people, they're going to need uniforms and stuff, or do you have them?
Yep. We'll go through all the gear that we have. We'll try and outfit them the best we can safely so that we don't have to put any money into them in the new gear and buy, I don't want to, we're hoping not to spend $7,000 on new equipment for these people that are going to work a couple shifts here and there. We'll see what we have that's safe for them. And then the uniform side of things, the part-timers, we say the part-timers get 2 polos, they get a couple T-shirts, they get a pair of pants, that type of stuff. These people only get, 1 polo and 1 pair of pants because of the shifts that they're working. So Yeah, we're definitely looking at that, but the new full-timer to replace won't be getting paid as much as the full-time that we're losing just because of the tenure and certifications and stuff like that. So that line item will go down.
So there may be some money there.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else?
Chief, I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but you expressed that people are leaving for the 24-hour shifts in different departments. If you were to get this extra person or an additional person and go to 24-hour shifts, would that mean that you could start cherry picking them from other departments, or is that not possible? What are your thoughts about that?
Potentially we could. You know, that's a hard one to say. And I don't want to sit here and say that if we do this one thing, we're going to fix everything. We're never going to lose anybody, because I think we'll hold on to people a lot longer, which will be great. But there's always other reasons. You know, we have the most calls that we've had since I've been on is 707 calls one year, which is great. But there's a lot of other departments that do, you know, like Chris said, they do 2,200. There's fire departments around here that do 2,500. You know, the big cities do 5,000 to 13,000 a year. So there's more opportunities for different calls. Our community, you know, we have a lot of residential houses. We have some commercial, but you go to some of these cities, they have a whole different types of calls. So I think we would hold on to people a lot longer, and we would get a lot more experience in here. But yeah, there's always that potential. And I've seen, you know, Durham firefighters go to Dover, and I've seen Exeter guys go to Hampton. And so it's not just us with that. There's always the opportunity for people to leave for whatever reason.
Okay, thank you.
Would you mind talking a little bit about the incentive program for the certifications?
Yeah. So I forget how many years now, maybe 5 years ago, I sat down with the Board of Selectmen. At that time, all the on-call personnel were getting paid a flat rate. It didn't matter if you were on the department for a week or if you were on the department for 25 years, they were all getting paid the same, as well as certifications. Certifications, something that we strive to get out of our members, to take the classes so that they have, you know, the knowledge of that. And there was no incentive for them to go do that. The board approached me and asked if there was a way that we could help the members want to go get certified, and we came up with a pay scale. So pretty much there is the flat rate when you first join, and then after you get each certification, you get $1 raise as you go. So that includes the firefighter 1, the fire 2, your EMT, your AEMT, to get a CDL license, to get checked off on all of our trucks to drive. We have our own program. You know, you get an incentive for that. So we've tried to help out the members so that they'll move forward in the department.
And so we would pay for them to receive the certification, and then they get an ongoing benefit after having received it via a pay bump.
Correct.
Okay. And how many people currently have received, you know, the benefit of the entitlements after receiving their certifications?
Since we started the program? Or?
Well, I mean, like currently on staff, how many people are getting it? Do you happen to know?
I do not.
Okay.
I would probably say throughout the year, we probably have anywhere from 5 to 10 people that get a pay increase due to a certification.
Okay.
If you look at our training line item, we always spend that line. So, and the budget explanation, I gave down the breakdown of the fire academy classes and what it costs for an AEMT class and an EMT class. So, you know, we're sending people to classes. They're getting certified and they're taking advantage of it. Yep.
Good.
So, Chief, is the fire academy doing that again in terms of, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, there was some issue about the fire academy doing classes and the cost and stuff. Has that changed?
I don't know if I know what you're talking about.
Well, I remember one time that the cost was going up, or they weren't doing it, or there was something in terms of the training that you're having to send people to?
They're, the last year or two, they've restructured. They've hired a lot more people to take on, going through a lot of these classes. And what they do, the classes that they teach are because of the NFPA standards. And so each couple of years, they'll put a new group out, they'll go through the new standards, see the training and what they're giving them. So some, taking your fire level 1, it's 260 hours. And that's a lot for a volunteer to take out of their schedule to do that. It's like every Tuesday, Thursday night, and a lot of the weekends. So what they did, they revamped it, and they're doing a lot more online. There's an online academy through the fire academy. So you're in the firefighter level 1 class, but you do a lot more online, and then your classroom is a lot, they're cutting back on the hours there, and you're still doing the drill yard. So you're getting the practical side of things. I think last year their budget was going back and forth because of the state. The costs seem pretty level from the last couple of years. And we're affiliated with them. So the cost is definitely a lot less for us.
Okay, thank you. Can we do the EOC? I don't know if that's you or Karen.
Oh, can I make a Karen?
That's me. If she's coughing, I'd rather have you, but
the EOC budget, we'd like to keep it the same as last year. There's no increase or decrease. $1,000 for the director, $600 for the assistant, and then $4,000 on supplies.
Can you tell the ABC who those 2 people are that fill those 2 positions for us?
I am the emergency management director, and Karen Rossi is the assistant emergency management director.
Thank you.
And I cannot do anything without her.
Aw. All right,
I don't have any other questions.
everybody else set?
No, I'm fine.
Said,
Great. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Scott,
Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief.
good night.
Okay, are we on to CIP?
Yes.
All right. Who do we have?
I think we lost Mr.
Howie and Karen, I guess, and Wayne.
Where did Karen? Oh, there's Karen. All right. You want to take it away? CIP members.
Bob Smith is doing the presentation. He'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I see Bob Smith.
He has a presentation he'll share too.
Wayne, are you alone in your room?
Yes, I am.
Bob, are you alone in your room? Or is someone else present?
He's still muted.
Your mute is on. Bob? There you are.
I'm alone.
All right. Thank you very much. We are all ready for you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't
Oh,
realize.
that's all right.
I thought we were going to do the EOC there for a minute.
I think they did, but
Oh. That fast, huh?
we are ready. It was just a minute ago, so you're good. Take it away.
Okay, I would start this out by saying that you should have gotten 2 packages. One is the actual CIP, and I'm not going to, unless there's some real wacky reason, I'm not going to go through that just because we'll cover it here, department by department. But I wanted to make sure you had the information to work with. So given that, these are the guidelines that we give out every year. You know, the plan year covers and what capital is defined as. We request that everybody gives us new pieces of equipment in today's dollars so that we can keep everything smooth and extend it out and over the years. And as of last couple of years, you guys have asked us to have them input new vehicles wherever possible. So we'll start with the highway department. The plan calls this year to buy a Buffalo turbine, and that was added this year.
Hey, Bob, are you going to share slides or are you just talking from your notes?
Oh, thank you, John. God, you'd think I do this enough, I'd be used to that, but I am sorry.
Julie, you going to let him in?
Okay,
We got it. Thanks.
sorry about that.
Buffalo turbine. What is a Buffalo turbine?
Well, that's a big buffalo. Actually, what it is it's a unit that goes on a truck that's on one of their plow trucks that they can take care of leaves and sticks and wood and that kind of stuff that collects along the side of the road. And it's essentially a blower sucker kind of thing, as it was explained to me. Howie, are you on?
It chips it up or something?
Howie?
Yeah, hang on, I had to unmute. Basically it's a giant leaf blower.
So it blows stuff
Yeah.
and maybe sucks stuff too?
No, I think it just
blows.
it just blows. So you can run down alongside the road and it clears out.
Blow it all back into the woods.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Now, also, Howie, my understanding was that they were going to use it for culverts.
Yeah, to clean out as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now some adjustments that have been made. Okay, so that's this year, and it's $12,096, and that's actual cost. So some additional plan adjustments that have been made is there's a Skag zero-turn mower with bagger unit that's been added for 2026 for $10,080. And then they moved the tires and the paint, which is for the front end loader that gets moved from the highway department every 10 years to the recycle center. And now that Steve owns both of those, I think he's a little bit more cognizant of trying to get the best for the recycle center that he can, and his tires were not in bad shape and the paint is not in bad shape. So he has chosen to move it out another year. And I suspect that we might see the same thing next year if it goes that way, because they want it to be as good as they can have it when they turn it over to the recycle center. Keep that budget down. And the nice thing about this is that their plan is so good and has been for, in fact, for a long time, that that's all being done, keeping the CIP in balance for 15 years. So this is not necessarily a big hit, but I just want to make sure everybody knows it. And you can see down here on their, if I can get it up, nope, I can't. It's level. We're making $55,000 a year deposit through that entire trust fund forever, and they're maintaining that in pretty good shape. Okay, roads and bridges. This starts to get a little confusing here. Steve did a inspection of the Chesley Brook culvert and has decided that they are going to be able to have to replace it. So they're in this year, they're going to pull $141K for doing that job. Now, for those of you who are on the committee that are not familiar with the way the highway bridges work, is that the state pays for part and the town pays for part. Unfortunately, you never know how much that's going to be until you get to the end. So we have always budgeted the full amount. But when we get there, we don't normally spend the full amount. In fact, the matter is it's significantly less, but that there is no guarantee to that. So what I'm trying to tell you is we have to plan for the 141K, but hopefully it's going to be more like 40K. But we will not know that until the bill is paid. Actually, they make a commitment during the time of actual installation. So in addition to that, some other plan adjustments. Steve is removing the Fisher Brook culvert out completely. And the reason for that is at the same time he was inspecting the Chesley Brook culvert, he was doing the Fisher Brook culvert. And that one, a couple of years ago, they did headers, and there is no need to replace it at all. So he has pulled it out of the plan. It's in very good shape. They have added the Cartland Road replacement and Snell Road Bridge replacement. And they're out 30 and 35. Actually, that's not out very far, but it is out. And they're at essentially 300K piece. So that's new in their CIP. You can see those out in here. The Cartland Road Bridge is right here, and the Schnell Bridge is right here. Again, I would tell you that they've done pretty good with that. This has been constant $60,000 a year that we deposit in that trust fund, and they're living with it in good shape. So you could kind of see how it vacillates down here in that last bottom line. But in fact, the lowest we ever get is $6,000, and we immediately turn right around and start building it back up. But a lot of that, we can help the situation by adjusting the timing of when these things are done. And that's why we have the adjustments each year, or part of the reason why we have the adjustments each year. Is there anything on that, Howie, that you want to add?
No, Bob, that was good.
Okay. I should have probably mentioned to each one of you, I have the committee on because we divide the departments up between the four of us. And I don't want anybody to think that I know the entire town, because I don't. And so I rely on these guys to feed me the information and then educate me as best they can, which is every year it gets harder and harder. Okay, code enforcement. We've told Karen that she can't have a car again. In all seriousness, this is, they're really more to keep in mind that we might ultimately have to spend a car, but so that everybody is aware of it, we, for the last couple of years or last couple times, we have put a police vehicle in there, repainted it, put the decals on it, and away they go. And they're very happy, I might say, with the one that they have right now. But we like to keep that, and we just keep moving it out as necessary. So there's no effect there and no money spent or anything at this point. Now we get into the heavy ones. Excuse me, fire equipment. As was mentioned earlier, engine 1 is planned for replacement this year. It has gone up a little bit to $655K. Again, I might mention to you that in the past we have had the CIP for the fire department set very similar to what we've done in the highway department, where the big light items like in the highway department is plow trucks. In this case, engines, and we have spread those out over a replacement period so that they're equally spaced out. In the case of the fire departments, there's essentially one every 5 years. So when we do what we did last year and move it out, that kind of screws the CIP up, but we did it for the right reasons. And I think everybody benefited from it. And they weren't ready for it yet anyway. And so I think that was a good move. Now, what it does do is we need to start watching. Normally we would start watching the next go around, because it would be the next purchase, because it would be fewer years, and we have to watch the deposits in the trust fund to be sure that we're covering that. However, the wisdom of the chief and all of the guys, they have come up with a major change to the plan. And that is that they're going to, or they've asked to move engine 2 replacement. Now that's the bigger of the 2 engines. They have asked to move that out, and at the same time combine it with Rescue 1. And what that does to the CIP is what would have been, say, double this, would have been about 1.3 million, is now going to be more than each one of those trucks individually, but combined, it's a lot less. And that's $800,000 is what they're putting in for that. And they have some pretty good justification. The fact of the matter is, the rescue rig is primarily vehicle accidents. And unfortunately, when you go to a rescue on that, you usually have some spillage on the road and those kinds of things. So they wind up using the engine and a rescue vehicle. So when they look at all of their calls, the majority of their calls they're running both of them. And by combining them, they have all of the necessary stuff on one vehicle. So there's a potential there to reduce fuel, to reduce wear and tear on tires and engine maintenance or vehicle maintenance. So I think in the long run, all the way around, that's going to be really good for the town of Lee.
Bob, can I ask a question, please?
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Gary.
Bob, on these prices that I'm looking at, are they estimated prices? Do we go out for competitive bids on all of these? Has that been done, or that will be done? Or what's the, if you would, the validity of the price?
Yes, they are They are estimated prices at this point. However, they call the manufacturer, they talk to other departments similar to theirs in different towns. What are you buying for? What is the state prices offering? Those kinds of things. So the estimates are pretty close. Now, in the case of fire equipment, as you know, or may know, they're specially ordered and specially built. So, you know, one truck is never like another truck. And it's a little difficult to say that is on the money, but I would tell you that's very close. That's based, I'm talking now the 655. That is based on a similar engine that was purchased in an adjacent town.
Okay, great. Okay.
And so the chief has a pretty good feel for that price. And so we've asked them to put it in today's dollars. Well, they only got the truck last year, so it's kind of in today's dollars. Now, where I want to get to is this right here is truly a looser estimate because we don't really know what combining those two mean. I mean, he knows that he needs certain compartments for certain pieces of equipment. They feel comfortable that they can get a vehicle under those specs, but for the 800,000, it might be 850 when they get there. I guess it could be actually be 900, but it will certainly be much less than double the 655.
Okay.
And of course, when they actually put the bid out is when they'll get the quote. And that's true with the plow trucks too, by the way.
Yeah.
You know. Now,
Doesn't include the trade and so forth, so you don't know all that either.
no, not at this point. No.
Yeah.
And
So it could be less, whatever.
And to be perfectly honest with you, we don't like to mess with that in the CIP. And the reason for that is that partly because of what you're asking. But secondly, it's never solid until you actually have the sale. So to estimate, we want to estimate it with no, trade-in. And when that trade-in comes in, let's say that's that engine one replacement, let's say they get 55K out of that. Well, that just stays in the trust fund. So what that means is we'll reduce the deposits accordingly as we need them to get something else down the line, But we really like to go full price because, if you buy it and you don't get any of those breaks, you got to have the money to pay for it. So, okay. So one of the things that we have added in here, and this is after a discussion of Scott and I together, that Scott wants to put in a replacement for portable radios. Now, what that is that's replacing the radios that he got 2 years ago, I guess it was. And they have about a 10-year life. So they won't get replaced until 2030, but he wanted to get them in there so that we can make sure we are accounting for it when we get there. And once we started messing around with that and we started loading these truck numbers in, we realized that we were able to move in the radio infrastructure, which he put off when he got the radios. He felt his priorities were the radios, and the radio infrastructure was second. But they still have a major blank spot down near the racetrack where they cannot communicate to dispatch using portable radios. So they have to kind of do a relay where they will take the portable radios and talk to the chief or whoever the on-scene coordinator is, and then they will in fact contact. So it slows things down. Well, we discovered that we were able to move that in because of what else they've been doing in the plan into 2023. So that, I mean, it's in there, but we're moving it in timing, which is good for them, and it's not affecting the CIP at all. In fact, it was the CIP that determined that it could be moved into only 2023. And this is what it kind of looks like. Scott has got a pretty decent deposit line in here, except as you can see, it drops down in between 26 and 27, and then it drops down again in between 33 and 34. Now that's because we had to really load the front end probably 5 years ago to build up this account. Part of that is because we didn't realize all that we had to have in the fire equipment line. And so that kind of hurt us. It should eventually settle out at probably 150 or 140 deposits during the year. I think that this 125 is probably too low, but that's what it requires to keep it going. Okay, his other one is the cistern and fire ponds, and they literally have no 2022, that should say, requirements. Sorry about that. And there are no plan adjustments in here. So if for any of you who were not around a couple of years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, what happened is they, this is to supply water to various places in town. And they hired or got a grant, I guess it was, to do a study on water supply in the town. And they had a firm come in and do that. And they placed cisterns at various points. Scott has a map down there that if you're interested, the best thing to do is to get down and stick your nose in his office and he'll show it to you. But the $100,000 is where you're seeing the cisterns going in. This $50,000 in here is a repair for the Elder Osborne cistern, which I'm sure everybody is aware of, that has never been right since it was installed. So they're going to try to make it right in 2024. It leaks, so everybody knows. So there's no real activity here this year, but I just want to make sure everybody sees it. Transfer station. Again, in this department, there's no requirements for this year. But there are some major changes to the CIP. The first one, which is really more just plain nomenclature. When Steve took over the transfer station, he realized that there were some things that were not right. We were calling things wrong for the DOT standards. For in fact, let me just go to the, you can see over here where it says OT number 3 and CD number 1. That tells the inspecting officer what that really is there. And so what he's done is gone through and changed all these nomenclatures. Now, for us, we were probably the ones that got affected the hardest, because it's very hard for us, not working with it every day, to line up to the previous year. But we're through that, and that's okay. This is the right way to do it. What it does is it meets the standards for over-the-road transport, and in fact, that's really important. The other one, which is a big hit, is they're replacing the baler rebuild with a brand new machine. Now, it's not out it's out in 2030, but you know, like I tell everybody, 2030 is around the corner when you're planning this way. They had a rebuild in there for Howie. If you can help me, I'd appreciate it. But I think it was like 20K or 15K.
Yeah, 20
And-
sounds right.
It was
Yeah.
it was in there for 50.
Thank you. And literally what it is the baler is because of the paper dust and cardboard dust and all that kind of stuff, it kills itself. I guess is the best way to say it. It just tears itself up. So both of the balers, 1 and 2, were used pieces of equipment when we opened up the recycle center as we know it today. And they've served their purpose and done well for us. But Pete, who is the maintainer of the balers and most of the equipment over there, has about gone bald, pulling the hair out of his head. And the decision has been made to actually go and replace it. Now, what it did is not really as bad as it sounds. What we did is we upped it here for these years to $5,000 because it was all 40 in there. And so it's not a significant hit, but it was an impact that we had to go take a look at. And so, in fact, we did. And, you know, it's there and we're in good shape. All right. Another big change is the library. Apparently, and Wayne, you speak up anytime I'm saying the wrong thing, but apparently they're getting ready to do some major renovations there or planning on doing some major renovations. And when they do that, there's an addition going on, I guess.
Right.
And what they're doing is they are going to replace, doing shelving replacement. But what that does is it brings it up to the same standard as what they're going to place in the new addition. And they want to replace the carpeting. Now that's been in the plan all along, and so has the circulation desk been in. But what the difference is that they're bringing it into all of these into 2022. And the cost has gone up. These were basically around $10,000 and I believe $9,000.
Somewhere in that area, yeah.
Now, before you panic, the CIP covers it. We have not made any adjustments in it, but you're obviously going to see things that are higher priced than what higher cost than what they were. They also made some plan adjustments, and that is that in the following year, they want to I just saw another mistake. This should be 2023 right here. By the way, I'll get these all fixed for you before you have to go after them. I'll send you a new copy. They're bringing in new shelving, or want to bring in new shelving to replace the final piece of that. They're doing upstairs work and downstairs work, and they're doing it a year apart. And that cost, unfortunately, is going to go from $10,000 up to the $27,000. This was in there for $10,000. They want to add in furniture replacement in that same 2023 for $10,000, and they want to finish the rest of the carpeting in the upstairs. This carpeting up here is in the lower level on the first year, and that'll be $11,000. Again, these are all covered under the present CIP. As a matter of fact, we have not made deposits in that fund for quite some time because they had been making major deposits up until shortly after we started the CIP, and we realized that was, they had like nickel dime items in here and there was no need for that. So we stopped making deposits in there. There may come a time out 20 years from now that we may want to start doing some deposits now. So they're covered. It's not a question of do we have the money? It's just a question of the right thing to do. Conservation. They're making some, I guess, a minor change. This is not an unexpected thing, as kind of what one would expect. We have periodically, every once in a while, purchased easements. Now, as you may or may not know, most of the easements are purchased in a combination of ways. One is they get grants, and so it's almost no cost to us. There are two trust funds that are used for doing it. One is the Land Acquisition Trust Fund, and the other one is the cost of conversion of, I can't remember what the name of it's called.
Land use change tax.
Yes, thank you. And so they will draw from time to time out of either one of those. Several years ago, what we did is stopped putting in this, deposits into this trust fund because we had built up to $200,000 and it wasn't being used. And we decided at the time that we would stop putting in until they needed it. And when they needed it and drew it down, we would then start depositing back in. At the same time, what we would do is we kept this out like 5 years, actually 6 years, so that it didn't show up in the 5-year chart. It only showed up in the 15-year chart. And what Dawn Jeans has asked us to do is to move that in because they are in the process of negotiating a couple different pieces of property for easement. And one of them will come out of this trust fund. And she asked to have the $200,000 moved into 2023. And because of our discussion with them years ago, we started putting deposits in here. Now, I arbitrarily chose putting $20,000 a year in here until we got back up to that price. And then I arbitrarily dropped it to 10. It could very well go to 0 at that point. But I didn't want to just deposit $200,000 because there's no sense in even having a trust fund for that. So, I spread it out to get back up to the 200. And like I said, I just arbitrarily picked 20 and it worked fine as far as they're concerned. And I let the $10,000 go, and we can remove that. That's again at y'all's discretion.
Who manages the fund, Bob?
What do you mean by managing it? You mean the keeper of the trust?
Money goes in or money goes out. Who is? If I want, I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand who is responsible, if you would, for the fund.
Well, the keepers of the trust funds are. That's what
it's part of John Tappan's stuff, or?
Yeah, he gives me all of the trust fund information every year.
Okay.
Now, the person that calls the shots relative to when they're going to buy, I think, is like Dawn is the chairman of the Conservation Commission, but I mean, to keep the responsibility from the town standpoint comes from the keepers of the trust fund.
Okay,
And I'm just trying to manage it so that we're prepared to have to be able to spend the money when we need it, right? I mean, I don't want to load these things up when we don't need it, you know, but I want to be able to buy a fire truck when we need it that doesn't hit the taxpayer in all 1 year. Yeah, yeah, I know you do, but I'm just making sure everybody else understands it. Okay, police department. Our recommendation, as we have given it the last 3 years, the numbers have slightly changed, but we recommend that you consider it. Now, I'm assuming you are considering it and setting it aside each year, but that there, for those who are kind of new on the committee, I would just share with you that for many years I kept getting asked, well, why don't we have a trust fund for the buying the police cruisers? And the fact of the matter is, you'd be depositing the 300 or 35.5K each year, and then within a month or two taking the 35K back out to buy the car. So it made no sense whatsoever. However, as we have worked through the notion of capital in that department, we have started to find out we're buying radios, we're buying fingerprinter machines and body cameras, et cetera, all these things that keep coming up. So we're averaging about 43.5K per year, with a cruiser only costing 35.5. So it now starts to make sense to us as the CIP people to manage that and start to take those spikes in the years that they're buying that equipment out and start to spread it out over time. That's our opinion. That's all it is a recommendation to your selectmen for that. The actual plan is pretty solid. It's 6 cruisers rotating 1 through 6 through, and then the next 6 years it's 1 through 6 again. But in between there, we throw in these things, and you can see that they come up quite a bit in price. So he runs a pretty good ship there, and it's pretty well planned out. So I don't want anybody to think that we're telling Tom things that we don't believe, because we do, and we think we'd be helping him. But that's again up to the selectmen as to how they want to handle it. But we got it in here and we're tracking it. Okay, moving on. Recreation. They are asking to refurbish tennis courts at Memorial Field in 2022 for 30.6K, and there are no plan adjustments. We have been planning on that all along. I think it got moved out 1 year, but what I would ask is that if the select board has awareness of what is going on here, I believe that the Little River Park has pretty well been planned out, but I do not believe that the Town Memorial Field or Stevens Sports Field has, and I think that we should be starting to consider that in this plan. As you can see, in 2024, it pretty well goes away. And we've planned for it accordingly, because we essentially go to zero and not depositing it. But I think it's a little naive to believe that there aren't things that should be done, i.e. for safety or for wear and tear or whatever on each one of those parks. And to my knowledge and to the team, the CIP team knowledge, there is no plan for those fields. And we think there should be, or certainly should be, discussed. Town buildings. Plan for this year is a new furnace in the town hall, a new furnace for the annex, and there has been kind of a change, which I'll go down through here, but we will be asking for $175K to build an addition on the highway shop. That essentially what has happened is, as you might see it, but 22 and 26 was in fact the dates for these two items that have been in the plan all along. It's just that he has reversed them. So the 2022 increased from 125 to 175 just by changing it from a shop addition, from a salt sand shed to a shop addition. And conversely, now in 2026, it's going, I just said that wrong, I think. This year, in 2026, it's going to be going down. I got my arrows backwards. Sorry, I'm making a note. So the point is they reversed it, and in what was 125 here is now 175, and in 2026 it was 125 and it's now 175. And that's what we're saying here. And then they want to redirect the inside painting of the library to the outside painting of the library so that that building gets all painted. And what there was the same amount, it's $12,000, I believe, in the painting for the inside painting, which is going to be done with that addition and refurbishment by the library committee. And so Julie asked us to move it from inside to outside so that they could go ahead and paint the outside of the building, which we have done. And theirs looks something like this. And as you can see, the highway addition shop is right here. And that's the one that we changed from down here in 26, the highway salt shed. And they're in pretty good shape too. In fact, it's going down over time, but I think anybody believes that's a little naive. I think it'll continue for 50,000, but part of the problem with the buildings is that we really don't and can't get a good plan for the buildings. And every building in there requires different things, different purposes. About the only common thing that you have in every building that the town owns is it has a roof and 4 walls. And some are air conditioned, some are not, some are heated, some are not. You know, I mean, we run the whole gamut. So it's very difficult to get a good plan. So what Julie and all the people do is that as we see a need, we start to add it in, and we just kind of keep watching that bottom line down there. So my suspicion is that this will probably move up out here in time, and we'll be able to cover it. So in summary, overall deposits have gone up year to year about 120,000, mainly because of the transfer station baler replacement, and that went up about 25,000 in the year. The roads and bridges went up about 35,000. Rec, we had to put 10,000 in. What happened was they weren't funded last year, so in order to do what they're planning on doing or like to do, we had to get that up there. And then 50 of that is last year we were asked to put town hall renovation money away. We have no way we don't really know what we should have there because there's not a plan that's been revealed to us so that we can say, okay, this amount of money, we need to put it away to make that final purchase or renovation. So I'm assuming that it's going to be $50,000, but you know, that might be up to you guys. Overall, the CIP will increase for the next several years, and that's primarily because of these trust fund deposits. And by the way, that will kind of dwindle over time, but right now for the next 3 years, there's a pretty high amount, and actually it goes 6 years, but the bonds will go away for the transfer station and the safety complex here in a couple of years. So we do reap that benefit at that point because we won't be paying that. So the 15-year plan looks something like this. And I would again remind you, this is what really kind of concerns us more than anything. That's what I was talking about just now, is that how that's increasing. Normally it should be right in here, relatively level. But you always, and this is more for the new folks that are in here, you always get this, what I call planner's droop. And it really is accurate only for the first 5 years, and then the next 5 years is quasi-accurate, and then out here, you know, you're kind of planning with a pair of shades on. And the reason for that is that most of the managers can't look out that far and tell us what they're really going to need at that point. So, you know, it takes management every year, and we do the best we can. And what will happen is over time is it'll probably come up to this line right in here. As you get closer and closer, each time it moves in, each year it moves in, they'll kick up a little bit. So that is it.
Good job, Bob.
And I promise you, I will get you new charts tomorrow for some of those that I made mistakes on. Anything from the committee that would like to add?
Bob, I think that you missed the 2035 withdrawal in the bridges when in your chart. If you just want to look at that when you are looking at them again. And my only other question is, how are you calculating the interest? Not that it's a ton, but being on the trust fund committee, I know our interest is really not good right now.
I would have used the word shitty, but
okay, well, trying to be polite.
I guess I should explain for y'all how we do this is we put the plan in place for all of the departments using the input from the department heads. When we go to bounce it off of the trust fund and what's there, we draw a line in the sand and say, okay, as of this date, which is generally the 1st of September, the plan is, or I mean, the actual trust fund, every trust fund is at this date. And we use that, and we don't change that during the course of the year. We don't track expenditures. We don't track the fact that that the trust fund just went down because somebody did spend money. We do a snapshot, and then we work it from there. And the reason for that is there's absolutely no way that we could keep up with it as we go along. I mean, we would be in business all year round if that was the case. So it's better to have that tracked by the trust fund people, and then they input it to us on September 1, and we ask for that and get it every year. So I get a list of all of the trust funds, what was deposited in there previous year, what the state is right now, what the interest is on that account. And so we go ahead and put it in. And then the other thing that we depend on is we go to the government website and get the cost of living index, you know, the sorry, I just drew a blank.
CPI.
Inflation, yeah, right.
CPI.
Thank you. And we use that. And that again is a snapshot. It's as of the of that September 1, and we don't change it the rest of the year. But the next year we will catch up with it because you get whatever happened during the year on the accounts and whatever the cost of the equipment is on that next year, and we adjust the plan for each one of those. I don't know if that explains it, but
Rebecca, one of the things that they're assuming a 0.8% CPI, and they're also assuming a 2.4% return on investments in the trust funds. Can you maybe give them a better number in terms of that you're seeing? Because I know in terms of conversations with John, you're not even getting close to that these days. So
No, we're nowhere near that. I'd have to look at what our best, I mean, we have a couple that are a little higher because we invested in long-term plans a while ago, but the ones that we're investing in now, I mean, I think we're looking at like 0.7 as being one of our best numbers I've seen lately. So the 2.4 is nowhere near what we're getting at all. Not that I think you're relying heavily on the interest, but it's not good. It's really terrible.
Well,
we try not to.
Yeah, the funds that are really small doesn't make a difference. But when you're talking about the two funds, the land acquisition and the land use change, we're talking almost $600,000. That's a big difference in terms of the interest that you're looking for.
It's
so
really very bad right now.
But maybe that's something that you and John can get to the planning board and let them know what you guys are seeing. And maybe they could use that number instead.
We can.
Yeah, I mean, it's constantly changing, but I'm sure that we could run some sort of average. I mean, the other problem is obviously all these funds are kind of in different banks. So that's a hard thing, but 2.4 is, I would say, at least twice what you really want it to be.
Well, again, it's a plan. So if we have a better number, we'll do it, you know.
Okay.
And
yeah, I'll email John and see if we can think of a better number to use for the long term.
I mean, it's been a problem since day one. In early days, it wasn't. As it turned out, it didn't make that much difference, but it may get to that now. I mean, where we need to make that change.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, and I know John's very proud that right now our trust funds are on average earning better than the state investment pool, but we're still not earning what we were earning a year ago.
Well, if you can get us that number, or whatever you want us to use, we'll use.
Okay, let me email it, John. And are we still planning on doing the same renovations to the town, the new boiler and all that stuff?
As of
Scott?
that I know of, yes.
Those will probably, in town hall, that'll probably happen when the renovation is done.
That's what I'm talking about.
All those three things will definitely fall off. We won't be doing those.
There you go.
The other thing just is, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it or not, but one of the things we've told the public works manager is to take out the tennis court at Memorial Field. And we've asked the Recreation Commission to give us a plan in terms of costing for putting that tennis court at River River Park. And the Public Works Manager says he's thinking that that's probably about $25,000. Nothing has come to fruition. That's something that we still have to get back from the Rec Commission, but that's just a piece of information for you and your committee, Bob.
Well, here again, you know, as well as I do, that we only take the information that we're given and work
I
with
understand
it.
that.
So, you know,
I'm giving you some information, Bob.
no, I appreciate it, but I got to have it in writing.
Oh, gosh.
No, I mean, that's what they'll do. They give it to us that way. So
Okay.
don't worry about it. If
Right.
you're,
And we received from the chairman of the rec commission, the CIP committee, received a letter requesting $10,000 deposit for the refurbishing of the tennis court. I have since been added to the committee and we're actually discussing that now, and we might, at the selectmen's request, looking at options, but the CIP committee was given exactly what Bob did.
No, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying in terms of an update, I'm not sure how much the CIP committee got in terms of what's happened subsequent to that. So,
They got nothing.
excuse me, you got nothing?
They didn't get anything.
Oh,
I think that was a whole lot. We got more than we normally get from them.
well, that's good. Excellent.
It's incorrect.
Well, I have no way of knowing that. Okay, what else? All right. If I can get that information, I don't know when you're ready to fold this in, but I mean, I can turn it around with the committee pretty fast now because it's pretty well established. We're not doing major renovations to it. So, you know, if you can get us that information, I can turn it around pretty fast for you.
All right. The other thing, and I'm not sure if you've got the letter yet, but the select board has instructed the town administrator to send the planning board a request to have for next year's CIP, all the town buildings placed in there, even if they're just as a placeholder, because that's the town's biggest assets, and that should be in there as well. So hopefully the planning board has received it. If not, they should be getting it soon, but hopefully they will consider that request.
Well, I hope that you're going to explain what you're looking for. I mean, are you just looking for a piece of paper with them listed in there? Or are you looking for a plan for each building or?
At the moment, Bob, I'm just requesting, at least the select board is requesting, that they just appear on the CIP, even if there's no dollar amount, and we haven't given you a dollar amount. So if anything, just a placeholder, because those are our biggest assets. We're talking millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands. So they should at least be in there. And I think we can work toward the future in terms of what those particular costs should be.
Cost of what, Scott?
Replacing those buildings?
Oh, okay. Now I understand. Okay.
All right, sorry, I missed that part. Because like, for instance, what we're doing with the town hall renovation, we've known that building needs to have repairs for years and years, but we haven't been planning for it. You know, we put money aside in the town building trust fund, but not necessarily something set aside just for that particular purpose. So looking in the future, at some point, we're going to be replacing all those structures. If it's 50 years, 70 years, whatever it is, we have to start putting some money aside, hopefully, for those particular purposes, so we don't get stuck like we are right now with the town hall that, you know, we haven't been saving for it. So now it's going to come out, you know, relatively soon. So.
Okay. I guess what I would ask is that when the time comes that we have maybe another discussion about how you would like it, because I mean, we could do that a million different ways. Well, probably not a million, but you know, 10 different ways. And I want to make sure it's the way you guys feel you need it, you know?
Okay. Well, maybe when the planning board gets the letter, if they're amenable, maybe we can have a meeting between the two groups to have a discussion about it, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, it's just that it's, I just don't want to start down the path and wind up with something that's not usable for you. No, I mean, this is your plan, right? I mean, it's for you guys. And if I'm not accomplishing that goal, I should be fired.
Well, we
So
don't pay you anyways, Bob, so
Oh, damn it. That's another thing I wanted to bring up.
we'll put a couple of dollars in the budget for you to get a cup of coffee once in a while, Bob. What do you think?
Jeez, I don't know, man. At least at least a hamburger once in a while, Okay.
Oh, those are cheap.
Yeah.
McDonald's, that's only $1.09. There you go.
No. I don't go to McDonald's. Anyway,
Okay.
Seriously though,
Yep.
I mean, we want to get it so you guys can use it and it's the way you want it. That's the
Sure.
message.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Great. No problem. Anything else? And John hasn't said anything, so I'm going to get out of here before he does because he knows too much.
I'm letting you off the hook right now.
Yeah, I know. You've seen this thing too many times. Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you,
Lots
sir.
of work.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do we have the TCVC?
TCVC is gone. There is no TCVC.
There is no
so-
TCVC.
Well, that's on my list, so
I understand. Well, it says possible.
are you talking about it or what can you tell us?
I don't want to tell you anything.
Come
Yeah,
on.
the town hall renovation committee is working on how much the costs are for renovating the town hall and the things to go along with it, expanding the parking lot, the septic system, well and stuff. That is going to be available to the select board. Well, our charges by December 31st, 2020. So I don't have anything to tell you at the moment. We're working through those particular costs. We're still, one of the things we're looking for is terms of the well, in terms of where it would be located. Parking, we know how much that's gonna cost. We kind of have an idea in terms of the town hall. The big thing we're discussing now is in terms of, do we make the second floor accessible or not? How do we do it? And what the costs are associated with that. So we're going to be bringing those particular pieces of information and do a presentation to the select board, and the select board can decide how they want to move forward with that. And at that point, we'll have what the particular costs are going to be. The thought is eventually to submit an application to LCHIP for possible matching funding. Some of the particular things that LCHIP will not do is like the parking lot and things like that. So we have to figure out what those particular things are and what is LCHIP eligible and what things are not. So we can have a general idea of what to make the application for, so.
Just an addition on that, that we had just recently discussed that it would be for meetings and functions. So it's not being revitalized as a town hall.
And the definition of functions, at least the one that we're using and that I presented to the select board is, you want to have a birthday party for little Jimmy and little Sally, or Uncle Joe just retired, you want a retirement party. Being able to use the town hall for those particular purposes, having like a cleaning fee. So if you don't clean up after yourself, you don't get your deposit back. And having like a rental in terms of that particular purpose. Town commissions and committees and stuff that has to do with the town, they could just use it just like any other structure. But for people outside of that, like the examples I just gave, there would be a charge for using that particular facility. So kind of like what we do with Pavilion down in Little River Park, but this would be inside, of course. So 4 seasons. So there'll be the plan is to have the large room as the meeting space, and the 1968 edition where the town clerk tax collector's office is. There'll be 2 bathrooms. There'd be a small meeting kind of conference room. There would be a janitor's closet, and there would be a small kitchenette. And also the plan will have like a little kind of entryway, like a vestibule kind of thing. So you'll have 2 doors to get in. So there's like a environmental break, if you will. So all the heat doesn't escape in the wintertime. But we're still, like I said, we're still working on what to do with the second floor. Do we make it available or do we not? So
Has there been any talk of what's going on as far as another town hall? Like, has talk of the parish house being
the
considered,
TCVC,
or where's that going?
the TCVC had that question to the select board. The select board's answer, and I'm going to paraphrase here, is their idea is to do something in the town center, most likely for a new facility. Either that's part of the parish house or a separate facility, but that's their intention, to move that particular part forward. But first off, move to the Daily building. Hopefully that occurs, what is it, January 5th?
Soon.
Renovate the town hall and then move on to the next phase, which is looking someplace for administrative offices to. So the plan is not to be in the Daily building forever. So
In that area. Okay.
hopefully the other 2 selectmen, did I paraphrase that correctly? I don't want to misspoke.
No, you did it. Very nice. Thank you.
All right. Are we done with the ABC? I turn it back to John.
Okay, thank you very much. Julie, you have anything for the board?
Nope.
Scott, Kara, you got anything?
No,
No, the next ABC meeting is next Tuesday at 6:30. It's just the ABC people. Anybody can attend. It's a public meeting.
Just
And the presentation will be to select board on the 14th at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.